Culture Club, half hour. Back after a short hiatus, I had my hip replaced.
And how is your hip doing?
It's made of titanium now. Actually, both of them are made of titanium now. I have I'm a metal detector hazard, but otherwise I feel great.
Listen, on a serious note, it's amazing that you've had two hips replaced, let alone one. And let's go, man. It's time to
Absolutely.
cycle. Let's go mosh again. You ready to go do some mosh? You want to go to like a
I'm
turnstile show and like go break some heads?
It's funny you should say that. Friend of the show, Eric Lavoie, my former colleague, was texting me last night, being like, "Dude, Refused and Quicksand are playing. We should go."
I saw
And he
that
sent
too. It's the
he
final
sent
tour.
me
Final
he
tour.
sent me another text this morning. Like, I said, I think we should go. Take it easy, Eric. I'm gonna answer you.
You know
Just
what's funny? I don't
slow
think
down.
we haven't talked in a couple weeks, but I went on I went on like a nostalgia tour the other day. I told you a couple weeks ago that I found New York City hardcore,
Yeah,
uh,
the original Revelation compilation.
the original Revelation comp. So I actually went and bought some tees that I haven't worn in a while, and I'm like, you know
No
what?
shit.
I'm gonna be one of those like dads that still rocks a Judge tee. You know, or and by the way, I was specifically looking for just a nice like pocket graphic. In the back, I don't care because I rarely wear like a large graphic on the chest. But the only bold shirt that they had left was like this massive, like huge, like bold with its
Yeah,
two lines.
but that's the Bold logo. Sorry, guys. This is the Connecticut band Bold, straight edge band, signed to Revelation, put out a record in 1987. It's a an
It's
archetypical
amazing.
classic. But also, but Bold. It's funny because it's like I had never thought about this, but like the Youth of Today, Gorilla Biscuits, Bold, all of those Revelation bands started to put into place almost a like typography sensibility that hadn't existed in hardcore previously. Previously, that hardcore was really informed by punk. It was like Minor Threats and Teen Idols, and
That's right.
I mean, I guess maybe DYS would have been one of the early ones to get it.
DYS is like borderline between the two.
Yeah,
They're, you know what I mean? But I
but
get
it
to your
was
point. It
but
brought
that
a
Bold
new face.
and the bold but the Bold one in particular is like that's a fantastic logo. It's a fantastic logo. Oh, can we talk about logos real quick?
Yeah,
Um,
please.
band logos in particular. So there's a newsletter that I get called Creative Block which is BLOQ that I pull from fairly frequently for Sick Weekly. And they published a list last week of the 40 best band logos ever.
No, wait, you said it's called Creative Block with the Q?
BLOQ, yeah.
This is on Substack, yes?
No. It's just creativeblock.com, I think. I don't know. It's an English like graphic design website blog type thing. Anyway, they put out this newsletter or with a story of the 40 greatest band logos of all time. And so naturally I'm just like, all right, in my head, you know, thinking of our boy Jeremy Dean, for instance, like, oh, where does the Misfits fit into that? Where does the Dead fit into that? Where does Black Flag fit into that? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I opened the list.
I gotta get this list up.
Number one, the Beatles. Number
What?
two,
What?
yeah, well, look, we'll not have that academic conversation, but number two, which I thought was amazing, was Run the Jewels, and the fingers and fist
I'm
logo,
looking right
right?
at it. Number two. Okay.
Yeah, and so and that happens to have been that was designed, or it was illustrated anyway, by Nick Gazin, who is a friend and former colleague, lives in Greenpoint, great illustrator, comics nerd, collector,
My kind of guy.
a DJ as well, and just a lovely dude. Like Nick is awesome. So I just texted him and I was just like, "Hey man, you're number two, only beaten by the Beatles." And his response, I got to tell you this, his response, which was so amazing, was, hold on, I gotta find the text. It's so funny.
I'm
Okay, here we
looking
go.
while you look for that. Number three is ABBA, by the way.
Yeah, look, the list. Well, here, so that gets to what Nick was saying. Nick texted back. I was like, "You beat everyone except the Beatles," and he said, "Weird. I got to be honest. It's not a good logo. It's an okay record company, but not versatile. It's a weird shape. They often remove the chain to make it fit better, which then makes it make less sense."
So Ayn Rand. I
And
mean,
and I was like, well, it's a weird list and a weird ranking. And he goes, the Wu-Tang logo is perfect. It's a boxy
mhm.
shape that can be made simpler or more detailed. All lists are fake clickbait anyway.
Well,
And
what's
I just
crazy,
I just
The Wu
love that
Lang,
response. I love that response. And Nick, by the
I
way, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. I think it is a good logo. I understand your point about it not being significantly modulary, but having that modularity, but fair enough. Sorry, Jeff, you were
well,
saying.
Ben, it shows you how much he still cares. I mean, how much it
Yeah,
still
fuck
is
yeah.
work,
Right. It's a
right?
15-year-old logo. Like he's really still invested in it. Nick, I love you. Guys, Nicholas Gazin, Nicholas, I think I spelled Nicholas correctly, dot, or not dot, just Gazin. Look Nick up. He's got a bunch of work online, very affordable. His style is highly distinctive, and Nick's a great dude in well deserving of your support. So look him
I
up.
feel like I've met Nick. I'm looking at. Oh, this is great. I just pulled him up as well. Thank you. Is it? It's Nick Gazin, as in Gazin with a Gazin, right? Right, right. Super cool. But like, just to keep going on that list for a quick second, Wu, excuse me, Wu Tang's down at 34.
It, I
Ah,
mean, yeah, it's funny. It's like you scroll through the list and you get down. I mean, eventually you get to Black Flag. Eventually you get to Wu Tang. Eventually you get to Oasis. Oasis is like number 40. It's bonkers. Some of the stuff or just not even some of the stuff that's in there. They're all okay. They're all
I
good.
think
But
the uncle logo is pretty cool at 7.
that was a surprise. I have to say, the Uncle logo done by James Lavelle, a surprise for sure.
Can I ask you
No,
on
sorry,
the?
done by, excuse me, Uncle James Lavelle's band, the logo done by Futura, excuse me.
That's right. It's a Vitora logo. It's extremely iconic. Ben, number 8 is Adam and the Ants, and I'm gonna tell you,
I
I
was,
never knew this was his logo, and it's kind of cool. I don't know. What do you think? Does it feel too
I'm,
West Lang to you?
well, it's not even so much that as just Adam and the Ants is not important to me at all.
Okay, got it.
And weirdly, my wife, who grew up in England in the early 80s, disagrees with me about that. Like in her mind, and maybe in the mind of this compiler, Adam and the Ants is very significant music, both musically and stylistically, and that's I understand maybe why, but not for me.
So I've just gone through the first 25, and you did say Black Flag's at 25. But I mean, there are logos on here that I think are strong. Sun O, as an example, they're a
Mm-hmm.
drone band out of LA, and it. I mean, it's good that to me, it's interesting that the writer of this piece went very left to right. Like from the Beatles at the top to something as you know as ultra like Small World as Sun O. It's all here. I mean, there's logos on here that are not necessarily logos. Like I love Kavinsky, but is that a logo or is that just a take on an 80s style rad BMX magazine uh, hit? Right. So, and again, no disrespect to the band. Black Flag at 25, I think, is a little low just because everyone's seen it. I don't know if it's the McDonald's of band logos, but everyone's seen it. And the Grateful Dead too. I do think that that should go higher. And they didn't technically use the logo here. What they used was an image from, well, sorry, I apologize. They do use the logo, but if I think about it, to me, it's all within the actual sphere that makes sense. Um, anyway, too much on this. It's cool. If you want to
Well,
check it out, it's
no,
at,
no, no, but
go
hold
ahead.
on. Just I think a couple of things, right? One is the list seems more rockist than it should. Um, like Dream Theater being on here, I find totally hard to understand. Not because Dream Theater, it's not because it's a bad logo, which is I guess the reason, but like who gives a shit? Um, at the Devin Townsend project, I literally have no idea
I
what
saw
that
that one.
is.
I just saw that one as well. And I think you're right. There's what I see a black metal band here, Dark Throne. I'm not familiar with these guys, but that space alone has its own kind of creative flavor.
Dude,
So how
I
they
haven't
picked this one, I think, is I don't know. Not that there's anything wrong with this image, but I feel like for
like
black metal there are more I don't know iconic images, like the Celtic Frost logo as an example. Where's that?
I'll
We
show
are
you this.
nerds, man. Nobody knows what
Look at
else Celtic
look
Frost is. Jesus.
look at this book.
Let me see. No way.
Lord of
That's
the
a
Logos. It's called So this is called Lord of the Logos. It's by or it's published by Gestalten. It's called Designing the Metal Underground, and it's an entire book of metal logos.
I am literally
It's
on Amazon right now buying this book. I'm not even bullshitting. Wow, that's an expensive book, Ben.
yeah, Lord of the
That
Logos.
just
Is
gave
it?
me pause. They're selling for about $250 a copy. Well done.
Wow, really? Sick.
Yeah.
I think I'm
Maybe
definitely got that
I'll
one
look
for.
on eBay later and see if I can find one cheaper.
I definitely got that one for free out of like there was this wonderful period for me anyway, between probably 2014 and 2020 at Vice, where Vice was being serviced books, like promo allocations of books, and none of the kids wanted any books. So I was taking home like 10 books a week just
Ben,
from the promo stack. It was
I,
amazing.
I
I
remember
definitely got
that.
this book. I definitely got this book for free.
I remember that period as well. We were competition at that time, but we both had publications that were catering to culture and counterculture, and I miss those days. If I think about, people always ask me like, do you miss getting giftings or samples? I said, actually, I really do miss like those days when like you would get a 200-pound de Cabusier monogram book, and you're
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
like you couldn't even move it, right? So we used to keep them. We used to keep them in the office. It is the one thing about the office in New York that's still there that I'm most proud of, is that we made a library. But I miss those books. You know.
dude. It's yeah. I mean, I know this sounds like sour grapes, like
By the way, Ben's house. I won't give it away.
successful, well networked dudes complaining about not getting free stuff anymore. But geez,
And I
it
hope
is
that's not
sad.
how we came off. But for those that have been lucky enough to been inside of Ben's incredible home, there are literally books
All
everywhere.
four of you.
There's like literally books everywhere. Um,
Hey,
well,
speaking of gifting, I just wanted to and actually because I want to hear about your morning too. The I got a gift this morning, which I was not expecting and was very pleased about. Our host for Breakfast Club in New York, Le Crocodile, gave me one of their new sweatshirts. It's a
super
cream-colored
cool.
crew neck with the burgundy Le Crocodile logo on it. Which this I thought was really cool.
Where are they from,
Like,
Ben?
wait, the crew neck or
This
the
is the
restaurant?
restaurant you guys were at.
Yeah, the restaurant Le Crocodile, which is at the White Hotel in Williamsburg. But
Amazing.
they have this really sick, like embroidered tableau of a crocodile and a it appears to be a Cornish game hen, which is both reclining and being served for dinner on it.
May I see? And that's embroidered?
Yeah, it's embroidered.
That's beautiful.
It's really cool. But the thing that I thought was interesting about it, I mean, shout out to Peter and to the whole team at Le Crocodile and to Ike for passing it along. But the thing that I thought was interesting about this was that it's made by a company called Dinner Service. And Dinner Service seems to be a company dedicated specifically to restaurant merch, which I thought was a really smart niche. Like really like
No shit.
it's
I'm there
very,
right
very
now.
canny. Very canny.
That's pretty dope. So for
Yeah.
those that are following along, dinnerserviceny.com is the uh I guess brand that Ben's talking about, and I'm looking here that they've done festival collabs. And by the way, we're not just talking about merch that's a typical T-shirt with a silk screen. We're talking about highly embroidered pieces.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It
it's really
says this.
cool.
It says it comes with a card that says
He's done some
entertainers have a.
Orville Peck stuff. Very cool.
Okay, so maybe it's not just it's not. Oh, well, okay, so let me read this thing. There's a little tag. It's a hang tag that comes with it that says entertainers have a way of turning their experiences into something shareable, something relatable that connects us and helps us to understand ourselves a little bit better. We may not have the same artistic bones and admire this. We admire in the individuals, but we get close to this world by perpetuating the messages we believe in and by sharing the stories of these people. So yeah, so I guess it's not restaurants; it's entertainers. Restaurants being part of that category, but in
Yeah,
any
and that's
case,
fine, by the
like,
way.
yeah. No, I like look, that level of specialization I think is really interesting because all of these small businesses, restaurants in particular, have IP that they can capitalize on, and that IP, and we saw it with Mario Carbone starting Our Lady of Rocco or whatever that
Yeah,
clothing line that he
I feel
started
like
as.
we
But
did it. I feel like we did that pretty early at Snob, actually,
you did. That's true.
working with the Falafel House in Paris, and I is La Du Falafel, if I don't mistaken. And what's interesting to that point is that guys like, I mean, clearly like smart people who think outside the box, but you know, the restaurant business for most people was never a brand business. It was always a way of life. And as you build now, you have to be a brand even in the restaurant world to be able to, you know, succeed or grow, or rather scale.
Well, to scale, right? Because it's funny you should mention that. There's this woman, hang on, now I got to look up her name. A woman who came to Breakfast Club this morning, who is her name is Rita Juarez. Rita Juarez, who is hails from Madrid and has a restaurant, or so it was explained to me, in Madrid called Rapaz, which is R like regular, A alpha P Peter, A alpha Z zebra, and it's in Madrid, and it's an 8-seater that I was just like, oh, it sounds more like a lunch counter or something. She's like, yeah, that's kind of what it is. But it's sold out until January, apparently. And
Oh, I love that. I love those tiny. I
but
just
it's like,
followed them on.
how do you make the economics of an 8-seat restaurant work without either being incredibly expensive and super scarce, or essentially living subsistence style, and having it just be a but so merch would be a way to do it, right? Like extending your IP would be a way to do it. You turn it into a brand that people know all over the world, even though it's like Rayo's. It's like nobody can go, but you turn it into this IP extension that becomes incredibly valuable.
By the way, so that happened to you in Breakfast Club, New York. I've had a very similar guest, or actually, you know, a guy that comes weekly. In fact, he was already coming to the space before he went there. A guy that would be very familiar to New Yorkers who grew up in the early street fashion days, as well as the nightclub days. Bill Spector, if you
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
Bill,
of
everybody
course.
knows Bill, and Bill's actually launching something that's kind of similar. He does a nomadic, high-end omakase sushi, and he's had build outs in the past inside of the St. Regis, inside of the Ritz Carlton. I even had one on the back of a restaurant where it was kind of like a secret door, and it seats
Wow.
10. They tend to seat 10. And what's interesting about what Bill's doing is I kind of think about what you mentioned about Rapaz. They seat two seatings of 10 per night, right? So that's a very small room. And what Bill's doing, I think, is interesting. And by the way, it's called Gold Standard Sushi. You can follow it on Instagram. It's more of like a sushi house for you and I, Ben, like where you can eat amazing sushi and
Where we're
listen
allowed
to
to go.
listen to Wu-Tang
Oh, I
and
see. Okay.
look at good art on the walls, you know. So it's interesting that you ran into a restaurateur as well today.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Speaking of that, I have to go to the restaurant that is associated with Hauser and Wirth in Soho, which I think is called Manuela. I could be wrong about that. But it's so it's on Spring Street, I think, and it's just a regular, I mean, Soho bistro type situation. But because it's associated with Hauser and Wirth, it's apparently stacked with contemporary art, a bunch of things that were done specifically for the restaurant, and then obviously I would imagine there's probably a rotating list of stuff that comes in and out of there. Hey, speaking of art, so it's auction week here in New York.
What is anything good?
Yeah, well, yeah. This is why I wanted to bring it up. The contemporary, I think it's a contemporary day sale today. Today's Wednesday, November 20th. Is the day that Comedian, the Maurizio Catalan banana piece, gets auctioned.
That's right.
And
And this is
so
at
at
Sotheby's,
some
if I'm
point,
not mistaken, right?
no, it's at Christie's.
Oh, is it at
Oh
Christie's,
wait,
not
no, no,
Sotheby's?
no, no, no. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. There are some other sales that are at Christie's. There's a contemporary day sale and a contemporary evening sale tonight.
Right. Ben,
That
how the
my our
hell?
buddy
How are you on
our
top of every auction?
well because our buddy Hillary Petches, Andrew, who is married to Andrew Schultz, the long-standing artist out of the Beautiful Losers post skate scene. Hillary has been on absolutely on fire in the last 4 years, and just had a great show at David Kordansky, and she's got works in both, or I mean, she doesn't, obviously. People who bought paintings of hers previously are have them in auction today, and so I'm just
That's cool. Let's
watching with
watch out for
interest.
that too. That'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, hoping for a great result for those, both to
But
benefit
let's talk
Hillary's
about this banana art. It's on auction at Sotheby's. I actually talked
comedian
about this during.
comedian. It's called.
Is it actually called Comedian?
Yeah. The name of the piece is Comedian parentheses ban ban.
It's amazing. So, we talked about this yesterday in one of my trend classes where
Interesting.
what exactly you're buying? You're buying the intellectual property to a banana on a white wall with duct tape. Am I correct on that?
Well, sort of. You're buying the concept as executed to the artist's specifications
Got it.
with a certificate of authenticity from the artist that this is the official work, not a knockoff of it, and probably some level of lifetime maintenance of the piece, which in the case of
That's super interesting.
well, so for instance, like Steve Powers, our friend Espo, who is probably my favorite living artist, certainly up there with Ed Ruscha, is I have a couple of things of his, and he's just like, look, dude, part of the artist's job is to continue the maintenance of the piece throughout their life, right? So for instance, I have a drawing of his that got kind of faded in the sun because of the markers that he used to make it,
Huh?
and I sent it back to him, and he fixed it.
No kidding.
Yeah, and because it's like that's
That's amazing.
Steve.
What do we call that?
Well, I mean, in a certain
Servicing?
respect, yeah. I mean, I think Steve believes pretty strongly in the artist owner or the artist buyer contract or whatever it is, where it's like you want the piece to represent the intention of the artist, and something that's damaged or faded or whatever doesn't do that properly, and so the artist should fix it. But in any case, this is also like it's the same as Saul Lewitt did with a bunch of his
Well, I was about to just
their
ask
instruction
that.
pieces. Yeah, it's like you're buying the IP and you're buying the execution of the work. And so in the case of this comedian piece, you could theoretically imagine a world where the new owner says, I'm going to have this banana on my wall, and it needs to be replaced with a fresh banana once a week because bananas go bad. I don't think Catalan would actually agree to that, but you could imagine a world in which that's part of the deal.
Ben, while I'm on just because I started doing some searching here,
Yeah.
um, I'm looking at Ed Ruscha as well because I actually have an eBay search term for his name. Not that much of his
Really?
art comes up, but I'm looking for like a zine that he did or something that's autographed. And I think I'm just going to keep losing on that because based on news that's coming out, the last Ed Ruscha piece of Standard Gas just sold and it went up 30%. And they actually show, the original piece sold for 57K, and today, I mean, we're at $68 million. That's an
Oh yeah.
incredible.
This is the
Standard
Ruscha.
Station is the name. I apologize.
Yeah. So Ruscha made the standard gasoline station figures very prominently in his work as one of his major icons
It's
from
his
early in his
icon.
career.
It's his hero.
Right. He's made a bunch of paintings of standard gasoline stations. So the different variations are, variously valuable, but they're all 20s, scores of millions of
That's a
dollars at this
massive.
point.
Is that not a massive number for a living artist?
Yeah, but I mean, Ruscha is in rare air with. I mean, Jeff Koons is up there.
Sure. Koons is there too.
I'm
By the
trying
way,
to think.
Koons is a guy's work that I've just only begun to understand. I don't know
Really?
why it took me this long to pay
It's
attention
funny
to
you
it,
should
but
say that because I mean, Koons I think lives in a world. He's not dissimilar to Cause actually, where it's on the one hand he gets accused of kind of dumb level, like playing to the lowest common denominator, which I don't think is
right.
the case, but he gets accused of it. But I find his stuff pretty like accessible and easy to get. What was it about understanding it that you wasn't landing with you?
Maybe understanding is not the right word. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
Oh, okay.
Because you're right.
That
Once
makes
you
sense.
see the pieces and you see the references that he's making, it's quite interesting. I guess for me, for me, I'm like, I'm getting I'm getting less punk rock in the aesthetic of how I look at art, if I can use that as a term. And I know
You can.
that's like generalizing because I love outsider art. I'm a huge fan of
Hmm.
outsider art,
Hmm.
small artists that are, you know, putting out these pieces more than ever. I'm falling in love with, modern contemporary art again. And
Yeah,
not from the sense of not from a textbook perspective, but more from the physicality of it around me traveling to New York. You take this for granted when you're not in the city, man.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Listen, by the way, I want to. Sorry, I stepped away from
And
the
by the way, I
microphone.
see an Espo piece just behind your bottom right armpit.
Yeah, that's my that's the classic Steve. Everything is shit except for you, love, which I bought as a gift for Marcella because in my world that's true. But hey, another thing that I got recently that I wanted to show
What
you.
you got? I bought a ton of art this week too. Oh man,
So
that
this is Steve Keen.
is that a
The
print or is the
No,
album?
it's a painting. It's a painting. It's so Steve Keen, Keene, who famously did the cover for Pavement's Wowie Zowie and had works in a factory. He's a Yale trained fine artist, but he works in this a very like manufacturing line style where he paints 50, 100 paintings a day. A lot of small scale, a lot of repeated themes and movements, and so his process, like the work is the process is the work kind of thing. But anyway, he makes a lot of these pop culture references, and that he did a series of essentially covers, if you will, of the cover of Air's Moon Safari,
Moon Safari,
the
right?
first record by the French band Air. Yeah, he was selling them for $50. That's a 18 by 18 square, and it was $50. And I was just
And
like,
if
I'm
you go to
buying
the
that for
website,
I'm
it's
buying
all
that for
there.
I'm buying that for somebody. I think I'm gonna give it as a gift for Christmas. But in any case, like if you're looking for a way into contemporary art, Steve Keen, you could not find a better place to start than Steve Keen.
Yeah, and by like $50, I'm looking now. If you're in the U.S., it's 70, and I think that's yeah. I mean, it's a fantastic way to enter the space. I think a lot of people enter through prints or
Mm-hmm.
lithos. I just bought a Robert Crumb etching.
Yeah, I saw that. That's cool.
I bought another Crumb etching, and then I actually started buying from Ben Frost. Are you familiar with Ben Frost, Ben?
I'm not.
He's an artist out of Australia who does cultural pop references on top of medicinal packaging. And
Interesting.
while and his prints are super accessible, again, like a couple $100 to get them. Check him out. It's Ben Frost. I think it's Ben Frost is dead
Yeah,
dot
I'm just
com.
seeing that. BenFrostIsDead.com.
Yeah, and right now he's got a ton of
Ben.
pillows up.
I see.
Um,
Okay, yeah.
but if you go down
Yeah.
into
It's like
his
Thumper
paintings,
from Bambi on a pillow that says cocaine, just one more bump.
right? But
Yeah.
and that
Great thing
stuff
to put
is
great to put in your house with your kids, Jeff.
yeah.
Excellent.
I mean,
Well
well,
done.
do me a favor, and get to the prints and paintings. And I actually love these little marijuana drug tests that they have up in the top corner. So I picked up the Garfield, which I thought was pretty cool. And Garfield's called baked lasagna.
Wow. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so this is funny. This is like the if Rick Klotz in 1992
Yes,
was a painter type thing.
bravo.
So Rick Klotz, founder of Fresh Jive, and then later Noon Goons
Warriors of Radness,
and Warriors of Radness. I
my
was just
favorite fucking line of all time, dog. I'm serious. Also,
really.
Rick, just because like it was outsider, right? And if
Yeah,
folks
yeah.
don't know Rick, he's an incredible designer. He's done major record covers, etc. But Warriors of Radness was like this anti-surf thing. And then at the same time, he started like the gay and lesbian surf alliance at the
Uh huh.
same time.
I have one of
Just
those
to
T-shirts. I have
just
one
to
of those
fuck with
T-shirts.
the machoism of like LA surf scene. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's just an amazing guy. And by the way, Rick just had Rick is doing great. I actually spoke to him about trying to purchase some of his mechanicals
Wow.
from back in the day. Yeah, I'd love to get like an old Fresh Jive mechanical in my wall. And he says he doesn't sell them because he doesn't consider them art. And
Well,
he would much
fine.
rather
Then
paint me.
just sell it
He'd
to.
rather make me something, you know? So shout out to Rick. But it's interesting,
Wow.
right? Because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
those are 100% graphical design art.
Yeah, this I'm scrolling through. You're right. Some of the stuff that Ben Frost paints is a little on the nose for me, but some of it is pretty cool. And I mean, I don't mean that it's not all cool. I just mean some of it's a little on the
Yeah,
nose,
yeah.
but some of it's pretty nuanced, and I'm into it.
And by the way, just to put it out there, for folks that have just begun collecting art as well, there are plenty of outlets from going direct to an artist, going to their Instagram and clicking in and purchasing direct. But there's also a ton of art, believe it or not, on eBay. And, you know, sure, there's fakes of everything, but like you can get very good contemporary art from amazing designers. Ben to me is in Ben,
Jeff, you there? Hello?
I'll stop for a second, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Ben
Ben's
is
paintings, if you go see, he's removed a lot of the paintings. He was doing the prints, he was actually painting on like Ozempic boxes. He was painting on,
right.
and unfortunately, none of the paintings that are left. All we can do now is buy a print. Anyway, I love it. I love his work, and yeah, Ben Frost. Ben Frost is
Yeah,
dead.com.
there's a real Kozik, Robert English. What's that? Is it Robert English, the artist who did? No. It's Robert something or other. Hold on, I'm gonna find this before we close. Who did
Finding
all of
that
the?
like the Bart Simpson on the Ritalin box is just
It's pretty
amazing.
funny, yeah. Robert Williams. Robert Williams, who did a bunch of Thrasher covers and was a real like icon of or precursor to a lot of the Beautiful Loser stuff. Yeah, Robert Williams.
One last shout out to Ben. I'm looking at some of his older work, and while I don't necessarily think it's my piece of art, this Jolly Rancher over a Tom of Finland Hugfest.
Is
Uh,
It's
it's,
pretty funny. There's a
yeah,
a Tom of Finland meets Krispy Kreme donuts situation that is
I haven't seen this one
quite
yet.
explicit as well. So there you go.
Ben, I just ran into it. There it is. Holy, I mean, this is real deal stuff. Anyway, another 30 minutes down, Ben. Thanks to everyone for joining Culture Club. We do this every week where Ben and I catch up. Thanks for letting us actually talk about art, because like when I talk about my art with people, sometimes they're like, why do you want a drug on your wall? you know. But yeah, so please
Why do you
subscribe.
want a commentary on the world we live in? That's boring. Fuck
Right.
off.
Oh,
All right.
we
Well,
go.
anybody?
Sorry, before we
Oh,
go,
go
one
ahead.
last thing. The one piece of art that inflicted about from my old office was an old fuck poster that was essentially an Osama bin Laden target. And
Okay.
I used to have it hanging very prominently in my office. So when you came in, you actually saw Osama bin Laden first. And somebody commented to me, maybe that's not the first person people want to see when we
Yeah,
come
for
into
sure.
the office.
For sure.
Anyway,
Well, I mean, look, that's if this was the beauty of what Eric Brunetti did with Fucked, right? And this is FUCT is was playing with people's emotions that way. So he was
Supreme
success.
Court. He won a
Go
Supreme
ahead.
Court case to get his name copyrighted because they would not copyright fucked for quite some
There you
time.
go.
It went to the
I love
Supreme
that.
Court. All right, Ben.
I love it. All right, dude.
See you
We
next
talk soon.
week. See ya.
Bye.